want to be the best there ever was, to beat all the rest, yeah, that's my cause.
The Force Awakens, Rogue One, Last Jedi Solo, Galaxy's Its Clone Wars, Episode 9 Mando, Boba Fett and Rangers, Bad Bitch, Andor, Visions, Ahsoka, Obi-Wan and Lando.
Catch 'em, gotta catch 'em all. Pokemon!
So, Disney clearly wants to turn Star Wars into another MCU, but I don't think that strategy should be used on a property that wasn't designed to do that in the first place. Hell, a lot of people are already tired of Disney milking Marvel as is, which, is definitely its own thing, but Marvel has had a much longer, much richer history being around since the 40s. Marvel has decades and decades worth of material, focusing on lots of different things. These comics tackle a wide variety of genres like fantasy, sci-fi, comedy, spy thriller, and so much more, while focusing on vastly different types of characters that are iconic. Most of them. Star Wars was a trilogy of movies about space wizards that was told out of order and became a trilogy of trilogies and spawned an officially recognized religion. Look, the Star Wars universe is iconic. You can do a lot with this world. You have the more sci-fi elements with spaceships and fancy technology. You also have this supernatural aspect with the Force and the Jedi Knights and basically space magic.
Okay, with that, I'm now obligated to inform everyone that Star Wars is not sci-fi, but is in fact a space fantasy.
But at a certain point, there's just so much happening that it becomes really hard to care. You just can't do as much with this universe as you can with Marvel. Marvel can literally be anything and everything. Star Wars is very specific, very recognizable, and it has an identity, and the Skywalker saga is what got people invested in Star Wars in the first place. It's what people primarily care about, and it's over. We're getting more Star Wars now than we got back when Star Wars was in its prime. You want to know why Disney won't let Star Wars die? Oh, easy. They spent $4 billion to own it. And while the movies have definitely done well at the box office, aside from these ones, they've made a profit for sure, but we're talking about Disney, alright? They want to make that Disney money. They want to get that big D. Disney will not be happy until they've multiplied what they spent on it by 10. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised that they haven't remade the original trilogy. The prequels too, I guess. Although I'm pretty sure they're having meetings about that as we speak. I guess I'm feeling a bit more underwhelmed because Disney's overall track record has kind of been all over the place. Episode 7 was great, back before we knew what disappointment we were in for, and it covered a lot of the same beats as A New Hope, and, well, yeah, it was fine, but things really only get worse from here. Episode 8 made some bold choices, and yeah, some stupid stuff happened in this movie, sure, but we also had some really incredible moments, and these are honestly some of my favorite moments in the entire saga. And I think the fans had their expectations set way too high and hated on it for doing things that previous movies, especially the ones that they liked, have also done. When episode 8 came out, I walked out of that theater pretty satisfied. And then there's episode 9. What else do I need to say? This movie's sole purpose was to try and undo the things that people complained about in episode 8. And it felt more like the product of two directors fighting over who gets custody over their depressed child, rather than properly concluding the Star Wars saga. This was the point where it was made clear that Disney had no plan for this trilogy, and now going back to episodes 7 and 8, it's really hard to enjoy them in the same way. I guess that's how Game of Thrones fans feel. In between both of these movies, we had Rogue One, a Star Wars story, and Solo, another Star Wars story. And honestly, both of these movies are, in my opinion, boring and forgettable. And I'm sure that's not really a controversial take. Man, I forget that these movies exist. And I'd go into them more, but really I just don't have the energy to spend talking about them. They really add nothing to my overall understanding of the Star Wars experience. Rogue One definitely made things feel more like a war, which I guess it put the war in Star Wars. Whoop-de-fucking-do. We already know what the outcome of this story ends up being, and Solo, a Star Wars story. All I'll say is that I'm far more interested in new stories than I am in watching another prequel that fills the gaps of things that I kinda wanted to see, but did I really need this? Did this really change my perception of Star Wars? The only good thing to have come out of Rogue One was the one scene featuring Darth Vader, and the only good thing to come out of Solo was, the memes, I guess? Disney did technically bring back the Clone Wars, which was awesome, even though half of this last season was a pointless side quest. But hey, fans were still pretty happy with how this all turned out, and I guess it's a good thing that Disney did, so fine. And of course, we also have The Mandalorian, which is the only thing keeping people invested in Star Wars at this point, as well as subscribe to Disney+. And look, I enjoy this show, but I'm not blown away by it. I've had moments where I've almost lost interest, and there's a lot of varying quality when it comes to the different episodes. I still think it's worth watching, but it's not incredible, and I honestly don't know how much longer they can keep this up. But I guess the biggest strength that the show has at its disposal is the fact that it's focusing on new characters. Yeah, we still have a lot of fan service, and we still have a lot of...
Oh my god, it's the same guy that was in the background of that one scene from Return of the Jedi, oh my god!
But, you know, it's allowed to be its own thing. Since it's not a prequel, the suspense for certain moments can still hold through. I can still be surprised whenever something happens, since I don't know where the characters end up at the end anyways, which is definitely something that I can't say for Solo.
Oh no, I wonder if Han Cholo will make it out of this one alive.
Look, that's not to say that none of these projects have any potential. Ahsoka definitely deserves her own show. I just hope it's good. But I like what I've seen of her in The Mandalorian. I also think that Star Wars Visions could be a fun little distraction. Obviously, this isn't telling a new story, it's just more of a highlight reel showing iconic Star Wars moments recreated by anime animators. Just try saying that 3 times fast. But it could be fun, especially for the fans, and I think we'll get some really interesting AMVs out of this. The Obi-Wan series might be kinda neat, but probably not much more than fan service. It is at least cool that Ewan McGregor's reprising his role as Obi-Wan, so yeah, that's neat. Rogue Squadrons is a theatrical release, and it's got Wonder Woman director Patty Jenkins at the helm. So I honestly think this could be good, as long as we pretend that Wonder Woman 1984 doesn't exist. Aside from that, what else did they announce? Everything else blends together in my mind. And honestly, as someone who casually enjoys Star Wars, I'm starting to enjoy it less and less. Disney gave fans an unsatisfactory conclusion that just leaves a permanent stain in everyone's mouth. I know it left one in mine. It tastes like Jar Jar. Alright, well, compared to Star Wars, I'm at least feeling a little more optimistic about the MCU, even though we're getting a metric dickload more of it, but at least Marvel had a plan. See, at least there, we got a pretty satisfying conclusion with Endgame. They could have stopped making Marvel movies, and I'd be happy with where we're at. Anything they do after this is really more of a bonus, and I think they've earned the right to experiment a little bit. Honestly, a lot of the complaints levied towards Marvel movies is that they're samey, formulaic, whatever, but a lot of the new projects seem pretty experimental. Comparing Marvel now to Marvel 10 years ago, at least they're not afraid to get weird, because comics be weird sometimes. And I'm hoping this results in some balls-to-the-wall stuff, the likes of which we've never seen on the big screen before. WandaVision, Doctor Strange 2, and Loki all seem pretty interesting and like they're trying new things. Falcon and the Winter Soldier looks kinda run-of-the-mill to me though. I guess we'll just have to wait and see how that one turns out. And we are getting new heroes and new characters added, so yeah. Although to be fair, I'm actually pretty scared of trying to stay up to date with the MCU now. At least before, we only had to worry about movies, but now we have to stay up to date with full-on TV shows, and those are an even bigger time commitment than a single 2-hour movie. And these are releasing alongside the usual slate of movies. I mean, as much as this scares me, I do also think it's a good idea, and honestly, there are certain stories that just warrant being on TV. Watching an MCU film already felt like watching the next installment of an exciting TV show, with fun teases for what's next, and on a budget and scale that you generally wouldn't see on TV. At least these shows will have the same budget and feel as a big theatrical release, and they're likely going to get treated with the same importance. I just feel like maybe we could dial it back a smidge. Most of these are interesting to me at some level, but Ironheart and Armor Wars feel like they should just be a single show, and Disney's already confirmed that both of these shows connect to each other, so why are we doing this? When it comes to everything else Disney has going on, well, I'm interested in like 3 things. Okay, well, maybe a little more than that. On top of that, we already have stuff that we knew about, like Soul and Raya. Those are original projects. Let's see, out of the over 100 things that were recently announced, these feel like blips in the grand scheme of it all. What Disney really wants us to pay attention to are more live-action remakes that no one asked for, more adaptations of popular book series that will probably not translate what readers enjoyed about those books to the big screen, and oh, I have a lot of beef with this one. So not only did they follow up the perfectly concluded Toy Story saga with a 4th movie that most viewers agree didn't need to exist, and which kind of goes against a lot of the themes and the messages of that trilogy, but we've resorted to this now. Disney is a well-oiled corporate machine that wants to get as much mileage out of their IPs as possible, and now they're desperate for money. They went from being one of the richest companies in the world to a company in massive debt, because they spent $71.3 billion to own Fox, money which they didn't have, so they had to take out loans, and they did this right before a pandemic that not only hurt their movie business, but also shut down their theme parks, which are the largest source of revenue for Disney. Oh, and because of the pandemic, they furloughed a lot of their employees. They fired a lot of their employees. Well, at least some of the higher-ups took pay cuts, that's nice. Oh wait, they restored those on the same day that they announced that they were firing a bunch of employees. Look, corporation gonna corporation, and I don't expect them to turn into an entirely different altruistic company, but I want to remain hopeful that in the long run, Disney will see that what they're doing right now is losing them a lot of money and hurting their overall image, and we know Disney really values their image. Maybe some of that magic that we once used to associate with this company will come back. Disney had a lot of low points in the past, and the Disney Renaissance, which is often cited as being the high point for Disney, came as a direct result of the Dark Ages. And I think we're probably entering another Dark Age, which is hard to quantify when on the surface they look really successful, but internally they're struggling. And hopefully things get better. I hope you all have a fantastic day. I know I won't. They canceled DuckTales, and now my life has no meaning.
Oh shit, Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers with John Mulaney and Andy Samberg. Oh boy!